So this culture where we like to skirt the truth and be passive aggressive, but never really say it exactly how it is to one another. You're stuck with it. And you don't have the knowledge to comprehend or do anything with it. So now I start with the healthy rules. And so this history that happened to me has really empowered me to understand people.
Well, Ken, I'm excited about this conversation. Thanks for coming out and being willing to jump in with me and tell a little bit of your story. I know that you've watched a couple of these in the past. You've done plenty of podcasts, but what I like to do with these conversations is just start way back from the very beginning. And every single one, I kind of start the same way and kind of lead through the story of your progression towards understanding what your future should look like, what you're excited about, and your definition of success, which we'll end with. And you've actually made this pretty easy because as I was thinking about this, you really started out how I like to start out these podcasts in your book. And I'm going to start just by reading a quick section, and then you can fill in the blanks. It's just your story, right?
Yeah, let's go.
So you started this out. So my dad raised me as a single father from when I was 2 years old. I would best describe him as a stoic German, Lutheran, retired engineer, and former military. Suffice it to say, he was a man of few words. I distinctly remember my father saying, "I am not your friend, I am your father. That is the nature of my beginnings." So can you take us from there?
Yeah, happy to. And I have to say this, long time coming. We have a unique history. We don't have to go there, but I've known you for a long time.
Yeah.
And here we are doing this. So this is kind of a special moment for me. And your studio is awesome. And so usually I'm doing like some sort of Zoom thing, but this is legit. This is a big deal. You've been doing great on your podcast. I'm watching the rise of Steven take place, and it's been pretty cool, man. So what a blessing to be here with you. And thanks for an opportunity to talk about the book and some of the things that have happened in my life. And I hope you take it wherever you want to take it to. So open and honest, you know, that's the deal.
You bet. And I'm excited to do that. And thanks for saying that. I know that we've got about an hour to chat, but it might go a little bit longer because we do have a lot to talk about, Ken.
We'll see. I think we need 4 hours.
Okay.
Let's do it in an hour and let's see what happens. But so thanks for reading that. It's a pretty powerful moment in the book right out the gate for people to understand just where I came from. And it's a unique circumstance where my father did it by himself. For the most part, his parents helped out from time to time, but I did not have a mother as I was being raised. And so I have my father, who, by the way, I need to add, and it is in the back of the book, that he is a loving father. Mm-hmm. I mean, he is, but in his way, and in very different ways than most people would view a loving father. And so knowing that my father raised me in the way that he did, there was no bullying as a word in our house. There's no bullying. You're dealt with the cards you're dealt, and that's it. And there's good with that, and there's a lot of bad with that. And so when you are bullied, everybody's been bullied in some capacity. But when you are bullied, especially as a little kid, you're like, well, I guess I'm not going to bring this up. And so there were a lot of things that happened to me when I was younger. And in the form of bullying, if you want to say that. And really, for a lot of my life, I never looked back and I said that was bullying until recent. And I'm like, my gosh, some of the stuff I've been through. And one of the stories that's really profound in the beginning of the book is I used to bike to class. I was 8 years old at the time of the story. I used to bike back and forth, snow or rain or a clear day. For the most part, I was biking. And I passed these kids on this bus. They're waiting for the bus. And so the timing is such that I'm always passing them. Mm-hmm. So these kids are waiting for the bus. I'm biking along, and I hear blink. And I'm like, what's that? You know what? No big deal. I'm biking along. Little 8-year-old Ken with a bowl haircut, super nerd, really scrawny, biking on his way. And then another day goes by and I pass these kids and I hear blink, blink. And I look back and the little rodents are throwing rocks at me. And I'm like, okay, well, that's interesting. But you're dealt with the cards you're dealt and you just deal with it. I didn't tell my father. I would try to cross 4 lanes of traffic to avoid them. I would bike past them faster if I had to. Yeah, I just was trying to figure it out. And one day I'm trying to pass them real fast. rock hits my spokes, gets stuck in there. I go flying over the handlebars, and I skin my hands and my knees, and I look back and I tell these kids, go to hell. Worst thing I've ever said to anybody in my life. And so I actually felt bad about it, even though what's happening to me is really bad. And I didn't tell my dad about it. So I just never talked about it. And I look back in my life, and a lot of things happen as an 8-year-old to me like that. I had my bike stolen. I had this guy flash a gun at me. I was chased by teenagers in a car that chased me down, and I had to go down the slope and hide. And I mean, stuff like that kept piling up, and it's happened in my life. And as a small child, you're like, you don't get it. And you just think it must be because of me. And what that does to you is it totally diminishes your self-worth. Like, there's something wrong with me, or there's something in my life that people feel the need to do that to you. And so there are far worse stories than mine out there. It kills me because I know that happens to a lot of people. And then there's I don't know, easier going life than I had for some people, but you've all been bullied. So everybody knows what I'm talking about. So let's not act like this is some unique thing. But as a child who's not able to communicate this with his father, or we don't have that kind of communication in the household, you're stuck with it. And you don't have the knowledge to comprehend or do anything with it. So I was this little kid with very little self-worth. I was very open. I always listened to people, wanted to help people, but I was never really myself. I didn't have the confidence to say who I am or what I felt. But then something changes in me, which everybody's gone through this. I started growing into a man. And so I'm in my teenage years now. And so now I'm a 15-year-old, 16-year-old. I start filling out semi-decent looks, semi-decent education started taking place. You start feeling yourself like, okay, look at this. And what happened to me, really, I turned into a monster. Like, I turned into a jerk. I turned into somebody who was wholly honest, like just let it rip, brutally so, but not open anymore. You know, I looked at my past as a little kid, and I'm like, that back there, that'll never be me again as this teenager. And it just reared its head in this ugly sort of way. And here's the thing from this story, and the reason I share it with people is because that little boy had little self-worth, but really cared about people. Then I turned into a teenager where I voiced everything I wanted to voice, and brutally so, but I was open to no one. So you see this pendulum shift as a human being. And those two types of human beings that I was are the kind of human beings we encounter every day. And so now I'm working in the session room with executives and leadership team members, entrepreneurs, CEOs, whatever you want to call them, who lead these organizations. And you know what I'm dealing with? 8-year-old little Ken who struggles with self-worth. But then I also get another human being or a behavior where I got that jerk teenager in the session room. And I'm not mad at either one. I'm like, I totally get you. And I know where you come from. And so this history that happened to me has really empowered me to understand people and to communicate in a way that's like, I understand where you're at. I'm not mad at you. I don't judge you for being a jerk. I don't judge you for lacking self-worth or confidence in this moment to say what's up. And so just supreme understanding. And that's really kind of the genesis of where this all comes from. And then the reason we need 4 more hours is because there's about 40 pieces to this equation that have got me to where I'm at today.
Yeah, thanks for starting that story out that way and telling us about the bullying and a little bit about your family. And I want to dive deeper into that part of the story a little bit. But
Go ahead. Most don't, by the way.
I do want to touch on that you have highlighted that you're able to communicate in a certain way with individuals because you understand, because you experienced that in the past. And I think a lot of people maybe haven't connected those dots yet. Mm-hmm. And that's some of the difficult with communication or even understanding why they do what they do. And through these conversations, and just finding out that, you know, even in my own life and other scenarios, like, oh, some of this is because of the way that I was raised or because of this experience that I had in life. And you actually need to take a step back every once in a while and think about those things because otherwise you just continue on without connecting that and understanding, hey, actually, maybe I can overcome that through conversation. So I do want to back up a little bit, dive a little bit deeper. So single child?
I have 3 older half sisters.
3 older sisters. Okay. Yeah. And how was, because you mentioned, you didn't tell your father, were they ones that you communicated with much growing up or not really?
No. So it's a pretty broken family. My dad's been through multiple marriages. So is my mother. But I was never raised by her. So she has 2 daughters. My dad has another daughter with his previous marriage. And so it's just kind of all over the place. Mm-hmm. But we were not raised together. We intersected maybe a week out of the year or something like that. But for the most part, not raised together. So they're not in the picture. Raised like a single child to a degree, but not with 2 parents.
Yeah. So understood. And then your father, military, you mentioned, was he, around for like the times that you could spend with him, or was he more away during the evenings? What was that dynamic like?
Yeah. So when I said, in military, it's really in his past at this point. Okay. And he's an engineer. While he's raising me, and those engineer types real well. Yeah. But that was just what was ingrained in him, including his father was also had past military experience, and so that is how that side of the family was. And then my mother, for what it's worth, who didn't raise me, she was a canine cop for many years. So these kind of stern, stoic type roles, authoritarian type stuff would come through, which aren't bad things. It's just the nature of how they are. And that has an impact on how I was raised.
Yeah. And then impact on some of the conversations that you had later in life and the way that you approach some of the different situations that you were in as well. And then you mentioned in high school, you changed things around a little bit. You were a different type of person at that age. Did you have different groups or friend groups that you were able to get involved with, or still a little bit more reserved?
No, it was hard because I switched high schools. So I actually went to a boarding school for the first 2 years of my life. That was like prison. I couldn't stand that. And I was still not growing into a man yet. And so I was this little nerdy kid and just trying to find my way. And I have a whole lot of close friends, and I just hated it. And so it was just tough. And you finally gain the courage to tell your father, you're like, I want out of here, send me somewhere else. And then finally he did. So after my sophomore year, junior year, I went to a school that was local. I didn't have to live at school anymore. Hallelujah. And it was different. And you find your tribe. I mean, I wasn't like a loner or so reserved, but I started realizing wow, I have, more confidence. And with that, I think comes a degree of power and influence and other things that come with it. And then the choice becomes, well, how will you use that power and that influence? And in large part, as a teenager, I used it negatively, and because I hated what it was. And all I knew was, well, give me the reverse of that so it doesn't happen again. And then into my early 20s, I'm like, on the outside looking in, okay, this guy's got it going on. He's pretty confident, says it how it is. But inside, man, I was pretty lonely because I just trounced everybody and I bulldozed everybody, and it was really lonely. I made no room for anybody else. My ego was so big that there wasn't space in this room for anybody else. And that's an incredibly lonely place, just as lonely as somebody who really lacks self-worth. So it's interesting, those two dynamics and what that does for you. And in my early 20s, I remember feeling a certain way. I've locked everybody out, including God. God was out. I didn't believe in God, for the first time in my life. And man, talk about even nth degree more empty. So now I've shut out my father. I destroyed my relationship with my father, which is great now, by the way. But I destroyed that thing, cut so many people out, deceived people. I mean, some really bad things. And, I got on my hands and knees and I prayed. And it was the most deep prayer I've ever had. And I said, God, I need your help. Like, I'm so lonely. I am messed up. I am broken. Man, I'm in tears. And so that's like the one moment in my life where I quit blocking everybody out, and I at least let something back into my life, and that was God. And for me, and you can believe whatever you want to believe, right? This is just my story, and I believe God influenced me in a way where he just opened me up. He's like, quit destroying the relationships around you. And, take in the life around you instead of building barriers around every piece that's trying to be a positive influence in your life. And it changed everything for me. And so ever since then, I really embraced this being open like that little kid I was, but also being very honest as well, and balancing those two sides out and not letting the bad from it rear its head.
And as you were in your 20s, you mentioned this is going on.
Yeah.
I want to take a step back and think a little bit about what was going on in your career at that time too, and how these two stories kind of come together. So talk to me a little bit about what you were up to from your professional side and how that, impact of shutting people out and some of those communication styles affected some of your professional career too.
Yeah, that's awesome. Look at you going deep on me. You know what? I'm going to turn this mic around on you one of these days.
You got it.
No, that's good. I love the question. It's often not asked, but for my early 20s, I was bartending. I mean, that was primarily my source of income. And, I had different apartments that I lived in. And that was really taking up a drinking, do drugs kind of lifestyle, and was not taking my professional future life seriously. And you let substance take you over, and you let the day or the night be your guiding light, as opposed to, trying to shape it for the better, so you kind of get lost the whims of society. And it was big time. But still, there was this thing in the back of me. It's like, you got to push yourself professionally. And so I had an intern at a entertainment place that gave me some good professional experience. At the age of 17, I should back up a little bit, but I was a manager of a Pizza Hut at the age of 17. I didn't know what the hell I was doing at 17, but I was managing, I guess. It was pretty rough. I'd love to have some tape on that.
Yeah. What was your leadership style back then?
I just power through, or, just work as hard as you could, but it wasn't really managing and delegating. I didn't have it figured out.
Yeah.
And it wasn't exactly a great training program. But then I also used to work for Enterprise Rent-A-Car. And so I had some of these things, and I'm like, I'm not really moving. And so then I did make a move to decide that, I'm going to go into more management, a heavier management responsibility, and ended up working for Darden Restaurants, after I came out of my haze and stupidity, and said, I'm going to straighten this thing out, build a better name for myself.
And was this about the same time when you were coming to realization about the way that you were shutting people out and having to make a change in your style of communication?
Yeah, they coincide closely.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So tell me about that position, Gardens. I think
Darden Restaurants.
Okay.
So
I'm not familiar.
Yeah. So I used to manage. I got myself in a position because I managed hard and fast. I got myself in a position to go to other underperforming restaurants within Darden in a region and fix them up, move on to the next, because that's what I wanted to do: fix it up, move on to the next. Fix it up. And so I kind of like that lifestyle. From there, I jumped into meeting a business owner who needed help with his business. I wanted that to be the case. I wanted to work in something different than this large corporate structure. Darden was 700 restaurants at the time. So there's a lot of bureaucracy that comes with huge corporations. Mm-hmm. And, one opportunity I would have had was to be in corporate Florida, Orlando, for the company, and that's not really what I wanted. So I found a local company that I could help. And so I helped this business owner in town. I helped him turn his business around. He was losing money the year I showed up. The next year we dropped a few $100,000 to the bottom line, the most he'd seen in 18 years. And the year after that, we dropped $1 million to the bottom line. And I'm like, all right, I got a knack for this thing, identifying issues, fixing them up. So I kind of viewed myself as a fixer. Went into a real estate company, helped a gentleman out there. And then I came into EOS, and I've been doing EOS, helping people implement the entrepreneurial operating system for the last 8 years. Crushing it. and loving it. It's what I was designed to do in a big way.
And when did was some of those first interactions of fixing up these locations and these restaurants really that first taste that you got of helping a company from, struggling to becoming successful? Or did you realize that you had a little knack for that style before that?
There was a weird little knack in me as a younger kid, because I had the dream that someday I would be Pepsi-Cola's CEO someday. Okay. But I'm like, I don't know. I'm a little kid, maybe 12 years old or 14 years old, have this realization, maybe even younger. I got to think about that, but just wanted that. But you don't know what's entailed at that age. My father didn't have like business acumen behind him, so I don't even know where that came from. But it was something inside of me, to the point where I would go buy business magazines and just read them and try to understand business. So there was something deep within me in the past. Where it came from, I don't know.
Then how did you learn that? Like, was that how to fix up these restaurants and these locations? Was it something that you had a mentor that, where you were asking questions to? Is it something that you just walked in and you could see it? Like, what was some of the skills you had to learn through that phase?
Yeah, it's interesting. I think just little nuggets kept piling on. So you'd read a magazine and how somebody would fix up a company. Jack Welch was an early, like, not mentor, but somebody who I was trying to learn from, or was always in these magazines, and just attracted to that for some reason. And then, at 17, being a manager, being like, okay, I'm going to get some responsibility under my belt, somehow knowing that would matter. So it really tested me and my resolve and ability to galvanize people to accomplish something. I don't know, at 17, you're trying to figure something out. And then it just got more professional and bigger from there. And so, I don't know if I'm giving you a clear answer. It's just something inside of me. And then it's like I just kept taking little blocks from things I was passionate about, like business, the magazine, or even if my dad knew somebody from church who was kind of a business person, I was attracted to that, and I would ask them questions, and maybe I'd add some bricks from what I learned there to be this house and structure that I am today. But I wasn't my dad wanted me to be an engineer. I remember that. He was like, you'd be a great engineer. And I went through 1 year of that through Grand Valley, and I'm like, no, this is not me. This is not who I'm going to be. So I didn't take those blocks. If anything, if they happened to make their way, I took them off. That just wasn't for me. And so I think it's just, there's no clear, definitive thing that got me to where I'm at, besides the huge equation I keep telling you about, like, right? All these 40 different things that keep piling up to make me who I am.
Yeah. And you brought up a couple different times of, asking questions. It seems like just being curious about the topic. I bought magazines. I read it up on my own. No one told me I had to do this. I was just genuinely curious about it. And then as you got into those first couple companies that you helped turn around and help them be more successful, what drove you? What excited you? Was it kind of like, okay, it's just my job. I just got to do this. This is what I'm here for. Was it a financial, if I do this, then I get, some type of financial bonus or something like that drove you to make it more successful? Was it fun to you? Kind of like a game?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. Can you unpack that a little bit?
I can, I think.
Yeah.
Help me with some questions here. But chasing financial things.
Yeah.
You have to have money to survive. Unless you're going to be somebody who lives off the land and could do that very well. That was not me, for sure. No, I don't think ever. So I'm going to need some help if we ever have a zombie apocalypse. So, but the gifts. The passion I had, I guess it wasn't gifts yet, but I had a passion or a knack for this thing that was business. I don't know what it was. I just kept following that or hearing that, and I started chasing it, and that was good. When I chased money, it was empty. When I chased my passion, it was fulfilling. And also put in achievement is a word that matters to me a lot. So I'm highly driven by achieving, not only for myself, but for others. So if I can go into a restaurant and all of a sudden we're watching all these indicators go up and we're starting to take a certain rank, I'm like, I love that, and I'm competitive as well. And so if there's a competition involved, I'm going to do anything I can to win. But achievement, and even to this day, there's some sort of mental health component here too, because sometimes in my days, I think we've talked about this going to dinner before, but Monday through Friday, I'm kicking ass achieving as much as possible. And then I would go into Saturdays and I would be like, what am I going to do for achievement? And almost kind of down or bored or missing out on something. And it was achievement, almost addicted to achievement. And so I think there's a realization there, but that's definitely a huge driver in my life. I've since realized how achievement is not only a great thing, but it's a really bad thing too. If I'm looking at my family who I know, love, and trust, but I'm bored, I've found a way to turn that into achievement and turn that into a driver. So, I've found a way to match my passion and drive and energy with maybe what I thought was missing within my family. So there's some ties there.
Yeah, 100%. And I even liked what you said, among other things, but about when you were chasing achievement for those locations and for those different businesses that you're helping them achieve something too. So I've heard it said before that you'll do more for other people than for yourself. And, it seems like that drives you, right? If you can help impact other individuals and make their lives easier, that's fun. Yeah. That's exciting. And sometimes, it's okay. It's fun to do achievement on my own and achieve a goal for myself. But if I set, some goals up for the team or even we do this from the family side, like some type of fun thing that the family can do if we hit the certain achievement together, or if I hit achievement, it's more likely I'm going to do that.
Yeah.
Because it's for someone else.
I love that about you. So you set these targets. We don't do this in our family as much, but you set these targets and then you reward yourself. And I've seen you do that. And I think it's awesome. Like, what a great way to go about it. And then you got a wife who's totally on board. And so that's got to make it fun.
Most days. Some days she's like, "Oh, this is going to be tough to hit this," because we do them once a quarter. And now we're getting close to the end of the quarter. It's like, "What are you doing tonight?" We're gonna go. Yeah. We call it check boxes because we got a list of boxes we have to do. Yeah. But that type of thing is very motivating, because I feel like if it was something where I was, had the choice to do it for myself, I might not do it. But because it affects other people, like we're gonna go on a trip in July, and if I don't do what I said I was gonna do and hit this level of achievement, we're not gonna do it. 100%. And so some of those things are like, it's very, very motivating, and it's encouraging to hear that those are motivators for you too, and that doing things for others. You talked a lot about this business owner that you were able to help add to his bottom line and grow his business, and you were talking about it from his perspective about how you were able to do these things for him. It wasn't about you, and I could see that brings joy and passion into what you do, and obviously led into some of the things that you're doing today. Right. We skipped over a little bit of your story, so I keep jumping ahead because I'm super excited about where you're at today, and we'll dive into it. Yeah. And then I keep reversing and going back a little bit. You hinted at Grand Valley. Mm-hmm. You said you went to school for engineering for a little bit, but that's not what your degree is. Mm-hmm. Can you tell me a little bit about your college experience and what that was like?
Well, the marketing degree, and so the marketing degree was a fleeting moment. It feels like just a blink. It was also party days. So quite a bit of it is forgotten, maybe consciously so or subconsciously so, but it was really a positive experience at Grand Valley, the pieces that I was present for, and what a great university it is. But I remember going into it that I wanted, to appease my father. And so I checked out engineering. And I'm like, this is not me. I'm not doing this. And then I switched. I got a marketing degree, graduated with that. Met some pretty important people in my life throughout, such as Prashant Ranade and Robert Fry, a couple professors that stood out to me, amongst others that I'll have to go back and think of. Carol Sanchez is another one. So I don't know if they're still doing anything at Grand Valley. Yeah, do you remember any of those names?
Some of the Robert Fry, a couple of the other names sound familiar to me, but I wouldn't be able to put a face to the name. But then you and I met shortly after that,
right?
And so you are going through this process of helping different businesses achieve success in your consulting and doing this type of work with a couple of different businesses. You mentioned real estate. And then throughout that process, you met Ilsa, and you and I connected through that. Can you tell me a little bit about the early stages of your family?
Wow, you love to go there, and I like it. It's nice to talk about, and you know some of it, and it's cool to see where we're at today. You know, that you found your love, I found my love, and that we're smiling about it. So it's kind of cool to go way back to the genesis and the beginnings of our family. I met Ilsa through all the reasons. I'm not saying this correctly. I should not have met her. It was a very improbable circumstance that I aligned and met her, and a series of events took place. Like, I firmly believe life itself is too improbable to just be coincidence. And so I was meant to meet her, and I did. And I mean, one day she was training to bartend. I'm not even sure she was supposed to be there that day. And I wasn't supposed to go to that place that day. And all these different things occurred that shouldn't have, that did. And there she was. Yet I was too chicken to ask her out. And so I didn't ask her out. And then I saw her that same night at TGA Fridays in the Rivertown Mall. And there she was, across the bar from me. And so I think I offered to buy her a drink. I think she denied me. I said, okay, I'm too chicken to ask this girl out. And it's a good thing I didn't, because she was seeing somebody at the time. And she would have said no to me, and that would have been it, would have left it. But I didn't. Something in me didn't have me say anything to her. And then she has one of the most recognizable names, so you can find her pretty easily. I found her on Facebook, and I reached out to her, and then I bumped into her again. And you know, the rest is history. Basically, she didn't work out with the guy she was with, and we went on a date, and here we are. You know, we knew pretty quick that we were a match for each other.
Yeah, and we definitely appreciate the friendship, and I know Ilsa and Anna appreciate each other, and enjoyed some of that time together for sure in college, because they were roommates, and that's how we met. But there is alignment with your career, your family, your beliefs, and even this book, which we're going to get deeper into, that are all leading towards, this journey that you've been on, and leading towards your definition of what success really means to you. You've already alluded to a little bit of this, but tell me a little bit more about EOS, kind of what you're doing today, what your focus is, and what you enjoy most about it.
Yeah, if you're hearing about EOS for the first time, you got to check it out. It is going to be someday how every company just decides to run itself through EOS, the Entrepreneurial Operating System. And you can get a book called Traction, and you'll totally understand. You'll totally understand what I mean. But I've been doing that for 8 years. Right before I started doing that, I was trying to build my own approach to help companies and leaders get what they actually wanted out of their business. And hence No Honesty started, because I'm like, well, what am I going to call my business or my practice? And so I called it No Honesty. And then I met a gentleman in Kalamazoo, Jim Coyle, who said, you gotta check this thing EOS out more. This could be an approach for you. And I'm like, well, I have heard of it. I have used it a bit. And then it started sinking in. This is the best mousetrap out there. There is no better approach for a business to have to galvanize all its human energy and to get it rolling in the same direction. So now if you are somebody who's heard of EOS and you've heard this a lot, well, I'll tell you, 8 years ago, it was not in our area well at all. I had to explain it constantly. Here's what EOS is. Now we're starting to get to a point where I'm at today, where it's who's your CPA, who's your banker, who's your attorney, who's your EOS implementer. And so it's just blown up into this thing. At the time when I was at EOS implementer, there was probably around 120 of us when I first started. It has now grown into about 800 people doing this worldwide, this incredible work that is EOS. And so No Honesty was simply a name and an idea that subsided because EOS took over. And so for 8 years, I've been running on EOS. 5 years ago in that journey, So 3 years into my EOS journey, 5 years ago from today, I was in the session room, Marissa Smith out of Ann Arbor. She's a brilliant EOS implementer. She's so good. I was in her session room and I saw these healthy rules on the wall. And so there's 40 EOS implementers in the room or so, maybe 30. And I see these healthy rules and I'm looking at them and I'm like, oh, that's interesting. Respect time, participate. It's a privilege to be here. No politics, no sidebars, no electronics, and be open and honest. I'm like, those are some great healthy rules. And so I'm dazing. I am now no longer paying attention to the 29 other people in the room. And I'm thinking about something and I'm like, open and honest. There is something missing in my session room in a big way. And I'm thinking about all the teams I have served over the last 3 years. And I'm like, that's it. That is what they're missing. And so I would go into the room. I would tee up the objectives and the agenda for the leadership team, right? They would come in oftentimes like zombies. Like, all right, let's knock this thing out and just do it. And then instead, after seeing these healthy rules, I'm like, I'm going to press upon this subject before we start our sessions. So now I start with the healthy rules and I share all of them. And I put special emphasis on the 2 healthy rules. Be honest and be open. And I look at my leadership team members and I tell them, I want you to be 100% honest in this room. Meaning I want you to be truly and freely yourself. Speaking of what you want and how you feel. Let your freak flag fly. Here, anything goes. I don't care what you say. And I promise you, I'll be 100% open to it. And here's what that means. I'm going to listen to you without reservation. I'm going to put my needs and wants on pause for you when you speak. But here's the deal. I'm going to be honest back at you, and I ask that you be totally open to me. If we do that, man, this day is going to be awesome, almost regardless of the agenda I'm about to read off. And then I go into the objectives and agenda. By teeing up those rules, especially be honest and be open, I separate them, right? I don't say be open and honest because people merge that into one meaning. It's definitely 2 meanings. So by going into those 2 healthy rules and looking at them and saying, that's what I expect out of you, I've given everybody in that room permission to be truly and freely themselves and be totally open to one another like a good team should be. Please, you invited these experts into the room so you could hear them. So why wouldn't we? And if you take this all the way back to the beginning where we went with the podcast, in front of me are people who are sitting there, that teenager who doesn't want to be open to anybody else, but they're willing to be honest. You got that person who lacks self-worth, who is not bringing their opinion or their honest selves to the table. And so they're lacking honesty, but they're totally open. And we're just trying to bring that all together and bring that out of these people because we all still struggle with these 2 concepts. But when I started doing that, Stephen, I will tell you, did my team start moving? Everything moved faster. And when I say everything, I mean, if there was dysfunction, it was identified more quickly. And sometimes that means separation of certain team members, but much faster than it had been moving in the first 3 years. It also means faster towards goals because now we're calling people out who aren't achieving, who need to be achieving, or we're better at creating clarity and speaking in a way that's more clear to somebody. So you and I have lived in and mostly have grown up in West Michigan, nice. So this culture where we like to skirt the truth and hide things and be passive aggressive, but never really say it exactly how it is to one another. I'll tell you what, you want to slow your company down, subscribe to that. And so it takes it away when you say those healthy rules and you're like, okay, that's a way I'm going to behave in this room. It just moves things along a lot faster. And so then born out of this was building this book for the last 3 years primarily, but it's always been in the back of my mind, to launching it last November, to sitting here, achieving, exceeding publisher expectations, to having Grace out in the world, launching workshops, coaching leadership team members, speaking engagements. She's putting this out in the world, and we are destined to change how the world communicates. Mm-hmm. And so you're seeing this whole thing play out in the equations that have taken place.
I love it. Thanks for sharing that, and the impacts that open communication and honest communication and being open to receiving feedback has helped solve problems in a more efficient way and moving quicker. One word comes to mind as you're even talking through and describing that is just, accountability at a level that we should be held accountable for. And sometimes we hold, this because we don't want to be honest with people, or we don't want to be open and hear their honesty with us, that stuff doesn't get solved. And but that's not natural for, especially if we're talking about West Michigan, right? It's not easy and natural for us, right, to be open in that way. So what are some things that you're able to do to unlock that honesty and that openness in, whether it's a workshop or in the room when you're having conversations with business leaders?
Yeah, it's great. I'll tell you that we need to be woke up to the lack of education around communication. So we need to be woke up. And here's how I do that. So when I have a group of people or I'm doing a talk, I'll ask the question, how many of you were taught the importance of honesty and openness via the definitions I just gave? How many of you were taught how important that it was in grade school? And usually about 1 in 10 people will raise their hand. And then I'll say, how many of you were taught, based on those definitions, the importance of honesty and openness in high school? Next to no hands. How about in college? And how about in your first job, your second job, your third job, fourth job? It goes on. And the hands don't come up. And the reason being is we are not taught this. How crucial communication, there's a stat, and I don't have the source for you. It's a legitimate source. I know that. But 88% of your time is spent communicating at work in some fashion. 88% of your time. And if 88% of the time that communication is not honest and it is not open, what is being communicated? Fakeness, closed offness. We're not even hearing each other. Information that passes in one ear and through the other. We're screwing up this God-given gift of communication pretty bad. And so it's not taught. And so I think that's the aha. And what I want leaders to come away with is you have an obligation. If you want your company to move faster and you want a highly effective team, we have to teach how to communicate. We have to teach people how important it is that you get to be honest, truly and freely yourself at all times. And I'm going to be open to you, but I'm going to be honest back at you. And I ask that you be open to me. We have to teach people honesty and openness. And so it is missing. And I would challenge anybody listening to this that has anything to do with onboarding. Look at what's in your onboarding right now. How do you onboard your staff? You don't have to answer that. But usually it's like, follow this process, and here's how you fill in your paperwork, and you clock in and you get your check, and here's some things about the company. But we're not teaching, and I know this to be true, how important it is for them to communicate openly, clearly, honestly at all times. That's not taught. And so how they've come into your organization, they've probably lied or skirted the truth in the interview here and there. They've postured not being fully and truly themselves in the interview. Now they're coming into your company probably not being truly and freely themselves. And so we have all this fakeness and inauthentic people coming into our organization. And open and honest is still not taught. So we can't get frustrated when people aren't honest with us, because likely they have not been taught this. And we can't get frustrated when people are not open with us, because they've likely not been taught this. It is our responsibility to teach people. So anytime I am networking or I have a one-on-one relationship with somebody that's going to be significant for some reason, I'm going to sit down with them. I'm going to say, hey, can we agree to communicate one way? I'd like us to be open and honest with each other. And here's what I mean by that. And I explain this to them. And I think a lot of people are like, oh, this guy's a little strange. Mm-hmm. But I think they're excited about this. Finally, I'm sitting in front of somebody who I'm just meeting, who I get to be myself with, and we're going to have a real deep conversation. Not this shallow surface level stuff. And so how much faster my relationships move because we're actually being honest and we're actually being open. And so the speed at which networking takes place, the speed in which sales takes place for me is much faster. And so you can take anything away from this. Constantly educate on this topic. Constantly surround yourself with people who will subscribe to this because everything moves so much faster without feeling fast.
Yeah, I like that. Improvement on speed in any process, right? If you're talking about it in a way that's going to get to the root cause faster, then, what's the hurt with some of that? I assume that in these conversations, there's certain individuals that are more open and certain individuals that are more honest. And that is probably tied to a couple of different things. It might be, the way that they were raised. It might be some impact on the way that they were trained when they did join the organization. It might just be the role that they're in. Are you in sales or are you in accounting? I feel like accounting, you might be a little bit more honest. We're talking numbers here. But the sales guys might need to figure out, because they do figure out some ways to make something seem a little bit different than what it actually is.
Sure.
So now I'm curious, as you get through, you've obviously launched the book, and congratulations on all the success and all the things that Grace is doing. It's been, I've loved to follow along and kind of see what you guys have been up to in the workshops and things like that. What are you most excited about as you look out into the future, the next 3 years or so, whether it's No Honesty, whether it's other areas of your life, like what are you most excited about?
Most excited about, I'll give you the quick personal answer is watching my kids grow up. Definitely the most excited about that, seeing how they grow and evolve. Then if I'm taking it to a professional realm quickly, it is, I am seeing how we are changing how people communicate. And we are getting feedback from the biggest skeptics that we work with in the session rooms to seeing the value, understanding how they can be better human beings to one another through being honest and through being open. So I'm excited to see where it goes. My EOS journey is going to keep going. So I'm always excited to see who's going to be the next set of clients that I end up working with. And that is going to keep going. It's kind of on its own trajectory. No Honesty has a chance to hit the clouds. Who knows where it's going to go. So I'm really excited to see where it takes us. I'll do speaking engagements, the occasional workshops. In large part, Grace is doing most of the engagements, most of the workshops and the speaking as well. And, I'm really thinking that this book is going to catch on like wildfire. Like, people are going to pick it up. They're going to pass it on to somebody else. And then I think we're going to change this West Michigan nice thing. I think we can hold on to the positive feeling while also being lovingly honest more often. And I think it's going to benefit our business community in a big way.
Yeah, one thing that I enjoy about the way that you've put together the book with Grace is that there's a lot of stories and examples, sub-stories and just like a time when, right? And that's, even when you think about the EOS books and the different things, you've got traction, but then you also have other books in the series that give you get a grip. You get a little bit more of like a story format, right? Like a little bit more of the ability to connect the dots for me. That's how I can see the ways of impact and the ways of making change in my life. So thanks for talking about a little bit about your personal and professional things that you're most excited about. I'm excited to see those things come to fruition with you. As we talk about your family a little bit, you've talked about seeing them grow up, but we haven't understood the age of your kids. Can you tell us a little bit about your family?
Yeah, that's great. 5 and 7, yeah. Dax and Mila. Mila's 7. She's my oldest. She is the extension of my soul. So for some people and their kids, they just have a deeper, different connection. And for her and I, it's pretty deep. For Dax, I got some work to do, but it's growing. It's getting there. It's not quite the same level, but I can feel it coming around. I'll share a story with you about Dax. When he couldn't even crawl, we co-slept a lot with our kids. And so I'm proud of that. Not everybody's thing, but we co-slept for the most part. And so Dax was between my wife and I, and he was laying there. He does not know how to crawl, this little boy. And my wife is over there. And I reach over and it's kind of the middle of the night. I touch my wife like this on the shoulder. And Dax must have felt me do that. And he got up on all fours and he looked at me and he goes, "Arr!" and he lays it back down. I've never seen that from him. He got up on all fours, which is crazy to me. And so I think he's like his dominance, was starting to be shown there. So I'm like, oh boy, I'm in for something now. And, it's great. My relationship with both children is awesome. And, right now I'm pursuing both of their hearts as hard as I can and trying to be as interested in whatever they're doing, no matter what. And I can feel that strengthening our bond. And so I'm blessed, man. I know I'm in a blessed situation. It feels like bragging sometimes when I get to talk about, business success, personal life success. And I think in large part, you can attribute that to embracing a more honest lifestyle and a more open lifestyle. And it's presented opportunities for me in many ways.
So as you're thinking through, even your journey and you mentioned the book, the business that you're in right now and the things that are positive about it, but it hasn't probably always been that way. I mean, there's probably been struggles throughout your journey. Yeah. There's probably been times when it's like, oh shoot, that was a fail. Shouldn't have done that. You mentioned that it's, gotten to this level as part of adopting a more open and honest lifestyle. What are some of the other maybe mindsets or habits that you've had to get into, things that you've had to, wake up each morning, got to tell myself these things to go into another day. Like session rooms aren't always easy. Like what are some of those things that you have to do on your own to show up to work each day on those days that are tough?
Yeah. Failure, I know it takes place all the time. So I cannot get every question right, statement right. I cannot read everybody perfectly all the time. So there's these moments of failure that take place, if we want to call them that. I will tell you, I just do not focus on it though. I rarely think about it, but I know it takes place. So it would have to be a pretty severe moment for me to dwell on something negative. So I will take it in, whatever the negative moment. So I've had people cuss me out before or tell me your assessment sucks and you're an idiot for not calling me fully honest and accuse me of my stuff doesn't work or something like that. That's okay. That's their opinion. I've learned to be open to what they're saying. And not get so charged up when somebody has a disagreement or views something differently. When something hits me heavily, I will beat up on myself hard and fast. I will assess the situation. I'll say, why? What did I do? What did they do? What's the truth of the situation? And then I'll decide how to improve and move on. So I'll take it in, take that moment in. I'll process it quickly. And I'll let it go. And I think what that's done is it helps me release a lot of negative things in my life. Almost to a point where I don't remember some things, right? Because I've just trained myself in a way to let go of things that might linger and cause me stress or anxiety or negative physical consequences or mental consequences. So I'll process them quickly and I'll move on. And then what I'll trap or what I'll hold on to are those more positive moments. So those breakthroughs with a client, I'll be like, that was awesome. And I'll hold on to them and I'll think about them and how do I repopulate that moment? The moment I saw the Healthy Rules was a big aha for me. I'm like, that's it. How do I use that and how do I help other people break through? And so I'll definitely focus on those positive things. And if I could liken it to a glass, and here you are, if you take in and you hold on to all the negativity and the negative feedback you might receive, you will fill up your body with this negativeness. You yourself outwardly will come across a certain way that will detract or come away from positive people. They won't want to be around it. And I think what happens is I'm able to get rid of that quickly. I put a lot of positivity in my life. Believe me, I am no cheerleader, over the top, happy about everything all the time. But I wouldn't say I'm negative or maybe pragmatic or factual and some other things. But man, I'm holding on to more positive moments. And I think what that does is that attracts individuals to you who are also like-minded like that. And maybe even for negative people, they're like, how do we get to that point? And to me, it's just a growth mindset. So maybe it's a very long-winded way of saying, yeah, I'm not going to hold on to thinking that things can't improve or evolve or get stronger. I'm constantly growing.
Yeah. And back to the even speed conversation, it seems like it's a theme, right? Is like moving intentionally quick and moving in the direction that you want to go, but fast. Right. And you mentioned letting go of things quickly, letting go of things fast so that you can just get in the next day, make the next conversation happen. And you're not able to do that if you hold on to things and dwell on things, and you're not able to learn. I think when you think about entrepreneurship, a lot of people attribute, the speed of their growth to how quickly they're able to overcome obstacles or able to rebound from things that happen bad. It's going to happen every single day. So how do you deal with it? How do you improve upon it? And how do you bounce back? You need to learn, but you also don't need to dwell. And I can see that potentially when you're, collaborating with someone that likes to dwell on something, and then you understand that there's not benefits in dwelling, there can be a little bit of friction there, right? Because they want to bring it up. They want to talk about it again. They want to, have those conversations. Have you ever dealt with that? Oh, yeah.
So I know that to a degree, there's an impatience in me that is not a positive quality at times. The awareness of that helps me. So I do, when people want to vent or complain or constantly hold on to negative things in the past, there has to be a space where they can talk about it. And for a lot of people, that's how they process it. In this instance, it's not about me. I am choosing to now be open to them and whatever they're saying, and trying not to rush that. So let them process it, let them say it, and then ask questions about it. Like, okay, good. Have you said everything you need to say? Okay, are you ready to move on from this? What things would you like to move on to? And just trying to get them to see what the bright future can be. If we can now start talking about solutions and the future and making changes more positively. And so I don't know if that helps you, but
yeah, no, definitely. Thanks for walking through that. Now, you've gotten to this level where you understand, how to be open, how to be honest. You understand business. Obviously, you've helped a large number of different businesses and organizations turn around and achieve certain levels of success. And that brings you joy because you like to see other people achieve their levels of success that they're shooting towards. As you think back to, hey, if I could have known these one or two things when I was in high school or when I was just starting out college, but I didn't know it, I know it now. What's one piece of advice that you'd give yourself when you were in high school or in college?
I would have read this. Wouldn't that be incredible if your future self sent you a book that they wrote and they're like, this is what you're going to learn. Yeah. How much that would have changed things. Because I made a lot of mistakes with the relationships. You can overthink the word regret, but like, come on, do you like the relationships that you've destroyed in your life? Like, is any human being really proud of that? Like, I get it shapes you who you are today, but man, it's bad. Like I messed up relationships. And so I think, had I known the importance of openness and to really know how empty I would have felt because I kept trying to design a world for myself, even though there's 7.99 billion people in the world, how lonely I'd be. I think I could have woke up to the fact that this is pretty lonely. Instead, I went on this weird journey of just trying to serve myself constantly. And you get up to the top of this mountain and you look around and you're like, oh my gosh, there's all these other mountains of lives out there that are trying to exist in the same way you are. It would behoove you to have relationships with these people that means they matter, not just you. So I think having this book could have been a big benefit. And I know some of my clients that will pass this on to their kids and be like, hey, just check this out, somebody's journey, and see if that relates to you. And guaranteed it does in some way, fashion.
That's awesome that you've been able to take some of your journey and put it into this format so that can happen, right? I know that, I've had some recent conversations where people have talked to mentors and they've been able to talk about their journey in a one-on-one mentorship type situation that then changed their future because they had that conversation in college or they had that conversation in high school. But that's the impact, it was heavily impactful for that individual, but it's a one-on-one conversation. How many people can you talk to, right? But if you're expanding upon that in this type of format that can have that type of impact, by thousands, it's exciting to think about. And congratulations again on getting that pulled together in that format.
Thanks, pal. Yeah. And I think, I'm sitting across from somebody who gets it. And we can flow like this because you embrace honesty and you are truly and freely yourself. And we talk about this when we go out, and I love it, and I'm like, that's natural Steven right there, and so it's cool. I'm talking to somebody who gets it. You're also very open. So I think great things are in store for people who can be those two things. And so, I'm blessed to be sitting here with you and doing this. So.
Yeah, I'm excited about the future as well, Ken. And thanks for walking us through kind of your childhood, where everything started. I know you made it a little easy by putting the summary in the book and walking us through that, but then also where you were at in high school, college, and how you and Ilsa met, and a little bit about your family. And that journey really has shaped what you're most excited about for the future, but then also your definition of what success is today. So I'd love to end our conversation just fully understanding what excites you about success and what is your definition of success?
Yeah. So my definition, nice and tight definition, is those moments when I can be 100% honest, where I'm 100% truly and freely myself. And that means when I'm in the session room, that means when I'm out to dinner with friends, that means when I'm around my family. That is success. And there are challenging times in life where you cannot be 100% yourself. And it begs the question, why? What strife within yourself is causing you to be fake or not truly and freely yourself. And I'm combating that heavily. And so I think those moments in time where you can be that is a success. It's so freeing, and it's real, and it's human. And so that's a big one. And then the other side of it is where I am listening without reservation, where I'm totally open. I'm really taking in these 7.99 billion people on this planet with all their differences and disagreements, and it doesn't bother me at all. That is success.
Love it. And I haven't heard that definition before, but it ties in a lot of other definitions that I have and that we have talked about, right? Because it really means that you're in relation and you're in conversation with people in a way that elevates both of you, and you can grow together. And it takes a lot more than just speaking to get to that point, right?
Yeah.
It's got to be a certain level of environment, certain level of trust, a certain level of communication to get there.
I'd like you to lock in that so you are engaging people in a way that elevates both of you. That's profound. So I'm not use that exact quote, so you better trademark that quick, because I'm going to jump on that. But that's powerful, because that's really what honesty is, and openness especially is because now I'm learning from you and you're having the space to be truly and freely yourself. It is an elevation. And so I love it, man. That was good.
Yeah, perfect, Ken. Well, thanks again for coming on to the Engineered Success Podcast. It's been great having you here and taking time out of your busy schedule to hang out with me for an hour or so, and excited to see what the future holds for you.
Awesome. Thanks, brother. Appreciate you very much.